What good would it have done? It's not like you could have stopped them. Of course I could have, he shot back, pushing away from the railing to stride toward her, the sound of his footsteps echoing ominously in the stillness. You think me just some wallflower waiting for trouble to knock? You're under threat, and you keep me in the dark? You wouldn't understand, she yelled, her heart pounding as her words hung in the air like heavy fog. You don't know what it's like to run this place, to feel every tiny vulnerability, every whisper of danger sends me spiraling. Try me, he countered, crossing his arms, his dark profile sharp against the twilight. You think I've not faced the shadows? I've seen them, Amara. You weren't the only one left to pick up the pieces after. He paused, his breath hitching slightly. I was there. The crack of thunder rattled nearby, mirroring the truth that now hung between them, heavy and unforgiving. Amara felt a pang. Was it guilt? And took a half step back, her expression shifting, vulnerability breaking through her defenses. I wish I had known. I I thought you were tied up in your own life. After all, you never really. I never really what? His voice softened as he moved even closer, a flicker of hurt flashing across his features. You think I'm indifferent to your pain, Amara? That this is just another game to me? He reached out then, taking her hand in his, a warmth spreading where their skin met. The wind gusted, rustling the grapevines below, and she felt something deep shift. You seem so far away sometimes, Alaric. Like the danger doesn't touch you, but I'm here every day, wondering, always wondering if the past will chase us down. He made to speak, but she pressed on, the floodgates of emotion opening. I can't lose what I love again. The panic was raw, her voice trembling as thunder cracked overhead. I'm not going anywhere. Alaric's grip tightened, grounding both of them against the chaos brewing around them. But we're in this together. I promise you that. Just then, a shadow loomed at the far end of the vineyard, figures moving silently like whispers in the underbrush. Amara squinted, heart racing anew. Alaric, look! He followed her gaze, eyes sharpening as the figures grew clearer. We should go inside, he urged, but her feet remained planted. Why? If they're here for me, then I won't hide, she said defiantly, her pulse working against the fear. People like us. She gestured broadly to their home, bathed in dusky shadows. We've fought too hard to be silenced now. Daring as usual, he said, a hint of admiration quirked in his tone, even as his brows knitted together. But you're not just some fortress. You're a person, Amara. And I need you to see that, she replied, the tension easing slightly, her gaze softening as the warmth of their shared moment lingered. You're more than my protector. His expression shifted, deepening as he drew closer. And you're more than a battle worth fighting. When did you stop believing you deserve safety? As the storm clouds brushed overhead, rain started to fall in gentle droplets, each drop a reminder of the chaos spinning around them. Their breaths mingled in the cool air, and for a moment it felt as if the world had narrowed to just the two of them, past fears and future fights suspended between them. Let's make a plan, Alaric said finally, his voice steady. But together, outmaneuver them at every turn. Together, Amara echoed, a spark of hope igniting as she glanced up at the heavy sky. It's time we took back control. Alaric nodded, his jaw set, determination etched across his handsome features. Whatever it takes. Together they turned from the encroaching storm, facing the turmoil head-on, each step forward a promise not just of survival, but of growing strength anchored in each other. Scene 63, Sowing New Seeds. Amara stood at the edge of the vineyard, her gaze sweeping over the rolling hills lined with robust vines, their leaves shimmering softly in the afternoon sun. The air was thick with the sweet scent of ripening grapes mingling with freshly turned earth, a bouquet that promised transformation. As she adjusted her wide-brimmed hat, Alaric stepped beside her, his presence grounding and magnetic. What if we planted cover crops between the rows? Amara proposed, her voice tinged with excitement. It would not only improve soil health, but also create a stunning visual contrast. Alaric turned to her, his dark eyes narrowing slightly as he considered her suggestion. A clenched jaw revealed a flicker of appreciation beneath the surface. You really think the clients will care about aesthetics? His tone was playful, yet a hint of seriousness lingered. Absolutely, she replied, her heart racing. What's the point of just producing great wine if we can't lure in excited customers? It's all about the experience. She held his gaze, feeling a warmth begin to blossom between them, the air charged with an unspoken energy. Experience, huh? Alaric smirked, taking a small step closer, the space between them tightening. So, making a pretty picture is part of your strategy? Is that so terrible? Amara challenged, her eyebrows arching playfully. I'd call it strategic branding. He laughed softly, his laughter rumbling in his chest, a sound that made her pulse quicken. You sure have a knack for that, he said, his voice low, growing intimate. Amara watched him carefully, noticing how the sunlight kissed the smooth lines of his face, each shadow giving depth to his features. She felt a thrill as his hand moved slightly, brushing against the small of her back when he gestured toward the horizon. The innocent contact sent a jolt of awareness through her. This was not merely a professional collaboration. This was something deeper, more enticing. Alaric, she began, her voice quieter now, the weight of their shared past pressing down on her. I want this vineyard to be more than just a legacy for my family. I want it to be a place where people can heal, connect. She hesitated, unsure how to sift through her emotions, where we can knit together a new story. He turned from the view, looking directly into her eyes, a seriousness eclipsing his earlier mirth. And what kind of story do you want that to be? Amara took a breath, the moment pregnant with possibility. A story of resilience, of taking what life throws at you and making something beautiful out of it. The silence that followed thrummed with tension. She could feel the pulse of their unacknowledged feelings thrumming like a shared heartbeat. Alaric's expression softened, and it stirred something within her that felt exhilarating and terrifying all at once. He started, breaking eye contact briefly. His fingers brushed against his neck, a sign of his growing unease despite the intensity of their connection. I don't always know how to navigate this. His voice was husky, almost hesitant. Me neither, Amara admitted, the corners of her lips curling with a nervous smile. But maybe we don't have to have all the answers right now. The weight of their admissions hung heavily in the air. Alaric stepped even closer, their breaths mingling. The world around them faded into a gentle blur, the vineyard, the wind, the sun. All that existed was the suspense building between them. And then, without thinking, Amara leaned slightly, closing the space. Alaric's hand found her waist, anchoring her as their lips brushed together. A spark ignited in the air, sending waves of warmth through her veins. It was a daring kiss, tentative but filled with promise, as if planting their own seed of something new and glorious in the soil of their lives. Alaric's grip tightened slightly, his fingers splayed possessively across her back. Amara melted into him, the future suddenly feeling awash with color and life. With every lingering second, she felt the weight of their individual scars begin to lessen just a touch, the past slowly drifting away. As their lips parted, breathless and slightly disoriented, he whispered, "Let's make our story worth telling." Amara smiled, her heart swelling with the possibilities that lay before them. Scene 64, emerging from shadows. The sun dipped low over the vineyard, casting amber hues across the sprawling rows of vines like a golden veil. Amara stood by the large oak table, lit by an array of flickering candles, their soft glow dancing across the polished wood. She carefully arranged a selection of cheeses and charcuterie for the evening's guests, a ritual she had mastered over the years. The pungent aroma of aged cheese mingled with the earthy scent of olives, anchoring her in the present, but her mind wandered. "Do you think they'll show up?" Alaric asked, leaning against the doorway, arms crossed casually, but his dark eyes betrayed a flicker of concern. He was clad in a fitted navy shirt that accentuated his muscular frame. Shadows framed his face where there should have been ease. Tension lingered. "They'll come. They wouldn't miss the finest selection on this side of the valley," Amara quipped, turning to face him. Yet her heart raced, not from the anticipation of the event, but from the electric charge that crackled between them. "Besides, you make me seem more intriguing." "Or dangerous," he replied, a wry smile playing at the corners of his lips. "Depends on who you ask." As Amara arranged a sprig of rosemary on top of a pear slice, she caught his reflection in the glass cabinet that held her mother's antique wine collection. In that moment, shadows flickered across his face, but they were not the kind that danced with the candlelight. These were deeper, darker. I've been thinking. Alaric's voice pulled her from her thoughts. About who I used to be. He stepped closer, the weight of his presence enveloping her as he reached for a glass of the vineyard's rich red wine. About the choices I made. Choices like rolling with the worst of them. She pushed, a teasing tone beneath layers of concern. He chuckled softly, his gaze momentarily drifting to the floor. More like choices filled with regret. I didn't mean to tangle myself in that life. It just happened. Amara set down her knife, giving him her full attention as she caught the vulnerability shimmering in his voice. You were just a kid being pulled into that world? He nodded slowly, the flickering candles illuminating the determination on his face, a storm brewing just beneath the surface. Not an excuse, mind you. I've seen things, I've been part of things, that I can't just dismiss. I get it, Alaric. You're carrying guilt, but you're not that person anymore. Amara's words hung in the air, almost tangible. He stepped closer, the distance between them charged with unspoken emotions. Do you really believe that? That I can be more than the mistakes of my past? She looked up into his eyes, searching for the answer he needed. I see the man you're becoming, the man fighting for a future. In that moment, the air thickened like a rich fog, cloaking their surroundings, making the world beyond the vineyard fade away. His hand found hers, warm and strong, and Amara felt her breath hitch in a sweet surprise. What if I never get to that future? Alaric's voice was but a whisper. What if the past comes back to claim me? We'll face it together, she replied resolutely, their fingers interlocking tightly as if anchoring them against impending storms. This vineyard, your life, it's all yours to reclaim. Their gazes locked, a kaleidoscope of emotion flickering between them, a blend of hope and fear that painted a vivid picture of what could be. The intimacy swirled around them, growing thick like the evening air, as the smell of wood smoke wafted from the fire pit nearby. Amara, he started, but she gently interrupted him by squeezing his hand, their connection deepening with every heartbeat. Let's not think of the shadows tonight, she breathed, her voice softening. Let's carve out this moment, focus on what's in front of us. With a hesitant nod, he leaned closer, capturing the space between them with a slow chill, the scent of cedar and his unique warmth wrapping around her like a cocoon. As he drew nearer, she could feel the weight of their unspoken thoughts, invasive like waves about to crash. The world faded away, leaving just the sincerity of their connection, and as she held his gaze, she could almost hear the soft whisper of destiny in the wind. Together, then? Alaric asked, his breath mingling with hers, anchoring her amidst the tumult. Together, Amara promised, threading her fingers through his with a fierce determination that surged within her. The shadows lingered, but light flickered at the edges, illuminating a path ahead they were both ready to tread. Scene 65, Conflicted Loyalties. The vineyard stretched like a sprawling emerald tapestry under a bruised sky, heavy with clouds that threatened rain. Amara Sorensen stood on the weathered wooden terrace of her family's estate, her heart racing like the wind swooping through the rows of grapevines. The earthy scent of damp soil mixed with the sweet notes of ripening fruit, a stark contrast to the turmoil churned within her. Tiny droplets began to fall, teasing the air with a promise of coming storms, mirroring the chaos brewing in her mind. Alaric Ughandu emerged from the shadows at the edge of the vineyard, his figure striking against the vibrant greens, tall, dark, and utterly commanding. The weight in his eyes hinted at a storm of his own, swirling with intensity and unsaid words. Amara turned to face him, her resolve shaking slightly beneath the pressure of his gaze. We need to talk about last night, Alaric said, his voice low and gravelly, as if he were afraid to raise the volume in fear of shattering the fragile moment. I know, Amara replied sharply, brushing an errant strand of hair from her face, her composure faltering momentarily. But I don't want to argue, not now. He stepped closer, drifting into the scent of her lavender perfume, which wrapped around him like a warm embrace. You think they'll stop? You think hiding is enough? His tone held a dangerous edge, like a drawn dagger just waiting to plunge. Amara inhaled deeply, her heart thumping in rhythm with the gathering storm overhead. I can handle it. They want the vineyard, not me. As long as I give them what they want, everyone stays safe. She straightened, trying to summon her defiance. By giving in to those thugs? Amara, you can't reason with a lion by offering it a snack. The frustration coursing through him was palpable, infusing the air around them. He raked a hand through his hair, his jaw tightening, every muscle in his body woven with tension. I'm trying to protect what's left of my family. Her voice cracked, fire colliding with resolve as a raindrop fell squarely on her nose, breaking the tension as they both stared at one another, the atmosphere thickening. Alaric stepped forward again, lowering his voice to a near whisper. And what about you? When do you get to safeguard your future, your life? The weight of his words pressed down on her, heavy as the impending storm. She faltered, the hesitation apparent in her eyes. What do you want from me, Alaric? I can't just walk away. I want you to recognize that you deserve better than this, Alaric replied, his anguish laced with passion. You deserve to fight for your dreams, not be caged inside someone else's ambitions. Amara found herself lost in the depths of his eyes, swirling with unspoken fears and a flicker of something softer. You don't know what I've done, the lengths I've gone to protect this place. He stepped even closer, their breaths mingling in the charged air, the storm releasing flecks of rain that kissed their skin. Then let me in. Whatever shadows you're hiding behind, let us face this together. His voice dropped to a husky hush that sent a shiver down her spine. What if my darkest secrets, she began, her voice trailing off, her inner tumult threatening to break free. That's my choice to make, not yours. Alaric's intensity enveloped her, drowning out the tempest brewing in the skies. Don't sell your soul to save your land. Fight for what's right, and for those you care about, including me. A flicker of longing danced between them, the air crackling with tension as raindrops began to fall in earnest, splattering the wooden floor beneath their feet. Amara reached out, trembling fingers brushing against Alaric's arm. What if it gets us both killed? She whispered, her voice barely audible over the sudden roar of thunder. Then we'll fight with everything we've got. Alaric's lips curled into a smirk, his charm slicing the tension in half. Besides, I've always wanted to go down with an epic tale. Amara chuckled, the sound punctuated by another clap of thunder. Epic or tragic? There's a fine line between the two, she teased, half smiling. That gives me a reason to keep you close, he said softly, their foreheads almost touching, laughter fizzling into raw intensity. The world around them faded, each drop of rain a reminder of the stakes lurking just behind the next hill. I can't lose this place, Alaric. Not again, she murmured, her voice trembling with more than just fear. Then let's ensure we both come out victorious. Together, he declared, every word a vow. In that moment, as the heavens opened wide above them, the weight of their conflicted loyalties hung precariously between them, drenched in the promise of something far more profound than either had dared to admit. Scene 66. Hope against fear. The sun hung low over the sprawling vineyard, casting a golden hue over rows of grapevines that danced gently in the evening breeze. Amara Sorensen stood on the wooden porch of her family's estate, the rich aroma of blossoming eucalypt and fresh earth mingling in the air. This was her sanctuary, each vine a testament to her labor, her dreams, but recently it felt more like a battleground. Alaric Ughandu emerged from the shadows of the estate's entrance, his figure bold against the fading light. He walked with purpose, his expression a mix of determination and unspoken concerns. The tension radiated between them, unvoiced fears floated in the air like the delicate wisps of mist rising off the ground. I can't just stand by, Alaric. You can't take all this on by yourself, Amara said, her voice firm yet layered with vulnerability. She clasped her hands tightly together, grounding herself in the moment, willing away the chaos that threatened to overwhelm her. Alaric ran a hand through his dark curls, sighing heavily. This isn't your fight, Amara. I can handle myself, he replied, though his tone lacked the confidence he wished to project. Handle yourself? Amara echoed, her laughter a sharp contrast to the seriousness of their conversation. Is that what you tell yourself while you're picking off goons like some sort of action hero? It's not a joke. His eyes pierced into hers, and Amara felt her resolve quiver. You don't understand what you'd be getting into. But I do, Alaric, she insisted, stepping closer, willing him to see the strength beneath the surface. These people aren't just threats. They're consuming everything I've worked for. You think I'd hide behind this estate while you face whatever darkness is looming? No, thank you. I'm not that girl." Silence hung thick between them, an electric charge that pulsed and throbbed. Finally, Alaric sighed again, but this time, it was more defeat than bravado. "What if something happens to you?" Amara reached out and touched his arm gently, her fingers lingering briefly on the warmth of his skin. "Then you'll protect me. You're damn good at that." She offered a half smile, hoping to soften the corners of his frowning lips. A flicker of amusement danced in Alaric's dark eyes, despite the gravity of their situation. "I'm quite the professional at saving women in distress. Just ask my therapist." "That makes two of us," she replied, trying to lighten the mood. "Consider this my application for the role of your partner in crime." He looked at her, really looked at her, as if peeling back layers of unburdened expression until he found her fierce heart. "I don't think you realize the depth of chaos we're stepping into." "Chaos is my middle name," Amara replied cheekily, a spark of defiance igniting within her. "Seriously, I have a birth certificate. But more importantly, Alaric, I've faced my ghosts alone for too long. Will you let me stand beside you for a change?" The question hung in the air, tender and potent. Their eyes locked, and the moment stretched, wrapping them in a cocoon of shared fears and unspoken understanding. Amara felt her heart race as the sun dipped lower, casting an ethereal light that bathed them both in warmth. "I need you," he finally confessed, almost inaudibly, the admission cradled between them like a fragile bird. The revelation hung delicately between laughter and tears, weighted with the promise of uncharted territories they might traverse together. "Then I'm here, Alaric," she whispered fiercely, closing the distance between them. "I'll fight for us." As if drawn by an irresistible force, Alaric leaned closer. The world faded to a whisper. Their lips met, tentative at first, brushing against one another with a sweet uncertainty. The heat pooled around them, a slow, intoxicating wave that ignited a thrill of hope amidst the chaos storming their lives. His arms encircled her waist, and she melted against him, feeling both desired and protected. The kiss deepened, a fusion of resolve and longing, anchoring them against the swirling winds of uncertainty. Time lost its meaning as they surrendered to the moment, letting passion, determination, and love intertwine in the fading light. One final, soft breath escaped between them as Amara pulled back just slightly, her forehead resting gently against his. No more hiding, she breathed against his lips, defiance and hope swirling beneath the surface. Alaric smiled softly, a bright ember of warmth in the growing darkness. "Then let's stop running." Scene 67, torn between love and duty. The late afternoon sun bathed the vineyard in a golden glow, casting long shadows that danced among the rows of leafy vines. The air was heavy with the sweet smell of ripening grapes, an intoxicating mix that was both a blessing and a curse. Amara Sorensen stood against the weathered wooden railing of the tasting room, arms crossed tightly, her fingers tapping in anxious rhythm as she stared out at the land her family had cultivated for generations. "I just don't see how you can turn your back on everything," her brother Dante said sharply, his posture rigid, arms crossed in turn. His normally easygoing demeanor had faded, replaced by an increasingly tense air. "It's not turning my back, Dante. It's about my future." Amara snapped, her voice rising. She hated that she felt cornered, trapped between her family's expectations and the emerging truth of her heart specifically, the way Alaric made her feel alive, like possibility was just a heartbeat away. Across the courtyard, Alaric Ughandu leaned against the rough stone wall of the chateau, his dark eyes watching the exchange with an intensity that made Amara's heart race. She could feel the heat under his gaze, fierce and unwavering. Time seemed to freeze whenever he was near, way in the air as if it were a living thing. He looked rugged in his fitted shirt, the sun pulling out the rich tones of his skin, every line and curve telling a story, one she was both desperate to know and terrified to explore. Dante scoffed. "Alive, you mean?" "Dante," Amara interrupted, her throat constricting. "This isn't a game to me. You act like I'm supposed to just follow an unbroken path laid out by Mom and Dad without ever what? Thinking for yourself?" He stepped closer, a finger jabbing toward her. "You know what happens when you chase dreams in this world, Amara. You end up like who? Like Mom? Amara shot back, a knot of anger and grief twisting in her stomach. You think she would want me to lose everything just to stay safe? I'm tired of running scared, Dante. At that, the air grew thicker, crackling with unspoken grief and fear. Amara turned, catching Alaric's eye. He stepped forward, closing the distance, the shadow of a smile surfacing on his lips, a spark of warmth against the stifling tension. Amara, he said softly, the drawl in his voice wrapping around her like silk. What does your heart tell you? This family is important, but so is your happiness. You can't pour from an empty cup. His tone was steady, yet there was a gentleness to it that made her insides flutter. She looked from her brother to Alaric, her chest tightening with uncertainty. I don't know what I should do, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. It was as if the very ground beneath her was shifting, threatening to swallow her whole. Want some advice from the world's worst brother? Dante said, softening slightly. Stop being a martyr. Your happiness matters too. Just because you want to step into a new world doesn't mean you're betraying the old one. But those words struck her, reverberating against the inside of her skull. Betrayal. The very word her mother had used before that tragic day, the day everything had changed. The knot in her throat tightened further. What's the point of a life without love? Alaric's question hung in the air, weighty and profound. What holds more meaning, relentlessly following a path set before you, or carving out your destiny, one heartbeat at a time? She inhaled sharply, an electric tension sparking between them, intensifying their unspoken connection. It was the depth in his gaze, the shadow of vulnerability that danced across his face. Aren't you worried that it could all come crumbling down? Amara asked, her voice wavering with sincerity as her heart beat like a hammer against her rib cage. He offered her a lopsided grin, his confidence unfurling before her. Only if I let fear tie me down. Besides, he added playfully, I've never met a challenge I couldn't handle. Just be careful what you challenge, Dante warned, his protective nature flaring. We're not alone in this fight. The syndicate is out there. Oh, please, Amara shot back, rolling her eyes at the ever-mounting pressure. Alaric could take on a bear and win. He might even make it look fun. Alaric chuckled, his whole demeanor radiating charm. Bears? That would be too easy. I prefer lions. They're much more impressive. Amara couldn't hold back a laugh, the tension breaking just enough for her to breathe again. But the laughter faded, leaving behind the chill of her dilemma. Can you promise me you'll always be honest? She finally asked, her voice soft, quaking like a leaf in the wind. I promise, he replied, his gaze steady and sincere. Amara took a long, shuddering breath, feeling the weight of the world pressing against her as she sought clarity through the storm within her heart. She realized now that this moment could redefine everything: love, duty, family. Then I'll fight for both. And with that, the delicate balance between love and duty shifted slightly, leaving her at the edge of discovery and conflict, ready to plunge deeper into life's complexities. Scene 68, Realignment of Priorities. The afternoon sun spilled golden light over Amara's vineyard, illuminating the rows of lush grapevines like gentle waves lapping against a serene shore. Amara, with her hair cascading like dark tendrils down her shoulders, stood atop the hill that overlooked her land. She felt a bittersweet ache as she watched the swaying vines, remembering the laughter and dreams that used to fill this place. It wasn't just the vineyard that felt threatened, it was everything she'd built and cherished. Alaric, she murmured to herself, only her shadow and the wind as her audience. The name tasted strange on her tongue, simultaneously a source of warmth and a simmering anxiety. Suddenly, a firm hand clasped her shoulder, startling her. Dreaming again? Alaric's voice was warm, playful, yet laced with an intensity that made her heart race. He stepped into her field of vision, tall and imposing against the backdrop of her precious property. The sunlight chased shadows across his face, emphasizing the contours that made him so maddeningly magnetic. Just contemplating the utter chaos of it all, she replied, forcing a lightness in her tone that was anything but. You do realize that hiding an entire crime syndicate's agenda paints a very grim picture for a romantic vineyard, don't you? Alaric's brows raised, a ghost of a grin dancing on his lips. I thought this was supposed to be the season of love. I brought you a bottle of. He paused, rummaging in his satchel. A very pretentious wine to remind you that good taste doesn't always mean bad decisions. Amara couldn't help but chuckle as she took the bottle while their fingers brushed lightly, a fleeting electric connection that sparked in her chest. Only you would think that in the middle of impending crisis, a bottle of wine would fix things. She leveled her gaze at him, her voice dropping slightly. But let's be real. What happens if we fail? What if they come for us next? Alaric's smile faded, the weight of her fear pressing against them like the heavy, humid air before a storm. Then we fight, together. No more hiding. His intensity pulled her in, grounding her amidst the chaos rising from the shadows of her life. Amara swallowed hard, caught between the urge to lean into his strength and the clamor of her self-imposed isolation, winning the battle in her mind. Together, you don't even know what you'd be getting into. I know exactly what I'm getting into, Amara. He stepped closer, his gaze unwavering, eyes dark and deep like the night sky. I want to help, but only if you let me. The vulnerability in his admission sent a shiver through her, a stirring in her heart that she had not allowed herself to feel in, well, too long. Help me how? You can't just sweep in with charm and bravado and save the day, Alaric? Why not? He leaned closer, the air around them electric with tension, a palpable heat. I don't want to be the man on the sidelines while you play the martyr. Martyr? She shot back, her voice sharper than she intended. You're not the one who has everything at stake. This vineyard is my life. His lips quirked with a hint of amusement, softening the very seriousness of the moment. Well, maybe it needs a little more chaos woven into its fabric. Have you considered that a little mischief might be what saves it? She laughed, despite the gravity of their situation. Mischief? Alaric? I'm thinking more along the lines of legal action, not an uprising. Why not both? He said, stepping even closer, their bodies inches apart now. You'd be surprised how much mischief can be charming. Just like you. His voice dropped to a whisper, and Amara's heart thundered in her chest, a symphony of emotions swirling within her. The tension between them pulsed like the rhythm of the earth beneath their feet. Alaric, she breathed out, her defenses beginning to crumble, unveiling thoughts she'd carefully locked away. What if we don't just fight? What if we embrace this chaos together? He paused, a glimmer of understanding passing between them, fragile and raw. Then, I believe we'll need to uncork that wine and celebrate the fact that neither of us is going down without a fight. With a slow smile emerging on her lips, Amara nodded, feeling a profound and fierce shift in her heart. In that moment, she didn't just realign her priorities. She welcomed the beautifully chaotic storm he represented. Deal, she whispered, the promise hanging between them as they unsealed the bottle of fate, a blend of courage and uncertainty swirling into the realm of possibilities ahead. Scene 69. Protector and partner. The evening air settled over the vineyard, heavy with the scent of ripening grapes and a hint of rolling thunder in the distance. Amara stood at the edge of the vine rows, her heart teetering between anticipation and trepidation. The last few weeks had blurred into a whirlwind of danger and discovery, the shadows of her past encroaching upon her resolve. She turned her gaze to the horizon, where the sunset bathed the world in hues of amber and crimson, a vivid reminder of beauty amidst chaos. Amara, Alaric's voice cut through the stillness, deep and rich like a fine red wine. She turned to find him approaching, the captivating chaos swirling in his eyes, a storm waiting for a spark. He walked with purpose, his tall frame silhouetted against the dying light, and despite their tumultuous journey, there was something undeniably magnetic about him that grounded her. "What is it, Alaric?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady, but knowing too well the quiver that betrayed her. He stopped just a breath away, his expression a blend of intensity and restraint. "We have to talk about what happens next." Amara raised an eyebrow. "You mean after we survive? Because I thought we were on the same page about staying alive." A flicker of humor danced in his gaze, an unexpected warmth in the midst of their struggle. "Always the quick wit. It's what makes you so infuriatingly intriguing," he said, his lips curling slightly, just enough to hint at a smile. "Not a compliment I'm used to." She responded, crossing her arms and feigning annoyance. "What's next is dependent on your sense of timing." "Timing," he echoed, leaning slightly closer, the air crackling with something unspoken. It's all a dance, isn't it? One wrong move, and we could lose the rhythm entirely. For a moment, silence enveloped them, thick and pulsating, every beat echoing the challenges they faced together. Stars began to prick the darkening sky, illuminating the weight of what lay behind and ahead. Alaric, if we're going to do this, whatever this is, then we need a plan, a real one. Not just dodging danger as it comes, she pressed, determined yet softened by his proximity. There was a depth to his gaze that made her heart race, and as more shadows gathered, she drew strength from that intensity. You don't have to do this alone, you know. His voice dropped, low and fervent. Trust in me more than you do in your own scheming ways. Trust? In you? Amara leaned in, matching the challenge in his voice with a smirk. You who hides behind every corner, nursing your secrets like they're the last vintage of an admired cellar? Alaric's eyes darkened, the playful banter slipping into something deeper, more earnest. Sometimes the shadows hold more than what's visible. I'm not as detached as you think. Then what are you? Her breath caught slightly. There was a flicker of vulnerability behind her words. He stepped closer, the warmth of his body radiating against hers. I'm someone who wants to protect you, who's tired of just protecting himself. Silence fell again, heavier now, punctuated only by the distant rumble of thunder that seemed to echo their uncharted connection. Time stretched, taut between them, until he reached forward, his fingers gently tucking a loose curl behind her ear. The gesture sent a shiver down her spine, awakening a hunger for closeness she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. Amara, he said, his voice barely a whisper, you're not just a vessel to be saved. You're everything. Everything. The word wrapped around her heart, a promise and a terrifying invitation. For the first time, she allowed herself to lean into the possibilities, the warmth of a shared burden. And what if I fall? His forehead nearly touched hers, intense warmth pooling between them. Then I'll catch you, always. And without hesitating further, they closed the distance. The kiss was like a charged spark igniting dry tinder, fierce yet gentle, electrifying their world for that singular moment. As breaths mingled and hearts raced, all thoughts of danger and dark secrets faded, leaving only the intoxicating taste of possibility. But the storm was gathering, and they both knew that when the chaos broke, they would have to face it arm in arm. Scene 70. Through storms and sun, Amara stood on the cracked wooden porch of the vineyard house, watching the sky darken like a painter's palette swirling with mercurial hues. The air hung heavy with the scent of impending rain, punctuated by the sweet aroma of ripe grapes on the vine. Frustration radiated from her like heat from the sun, and she could feel each pulse thrumming in her temples. This was supposed to be their season of revival, not another spiraling argument about trust and old wounds. Why do you always insist on keeping me at arm's length? Alaric's voice sliced through her thoughts, low and tense like thunder rumbling in the distance. Amara turned, arms crossed stubbornly. And why do you never trust me to handle my own life? We're in this mess together, Alaric. His dark eyes flickered with an emotion she couldn't quite decipher. Was it anger, concern, or something else entirely? I'm trying to protect you, Amara. You think you can just protect me? She interrupted, exasperation unleashing a torrent of words. You think shielding me from your past is doing me any favors? I need to know the truth about you, about everything. He stepped closer, the space between them charged with unspoken tension. You want the truth? Fine. His frustration transformed into vulnerability, stripping away layers of his guarded demeanor. I was there that night, the night everything fell apart for your family. I saw it happen, but I couldn't do anything. I was helpless. The admission hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Amara's heart twisted, the turmoil of emotions crashing against her resolve. You don't get to use that against us. You can't keep hiding, Alaric. He scoffed, the sound a bitter laugh. You think I want this? I want to be the man who saves you, not the one who watched everything crumble. Realization washed over her like a wave. She stepped closer, the cool breeze weaving through her hair, blurring the lines of their unspoken resentment. You think I don't see what you're trying to do? Amara's voice softened. You're not just protecting me. You're using it as an excuse to keep your distance. You've built this wall, and I can only stand outside. Maybe it's the only way I know how to keep you safe. He snapped, but there was a tremor of uncertainty beneath the surface. Their gazes locked, challenging yet inviting. The thunder rumbled again, echoing the tempest brewing between them, a blend of anger, desire, and an overwhelming need for connection. You think keeping me in the dark is safe? You think I'm just going to stand by and let you cage me? An unexpected silence followed. The world around them faded to the background. Alaric's features softened, the fight in his eyes replaced by something much deeper there. In the shadows lay a flicker of hope, as fragile as gossamer. I don't want you to get hurt, Amara. I'm not made of porcelain. I can handle the truth, she pleaded, the distance between them dissipating like mist before a rising sun. I want to know you completely, the good and the bad. A storm cloud burst overhead, sending the first drops of rain splattering against the earth, mingling with the scent of damp soil and fermenting grapes. Amara raised her face to the heaven, allowing the rain to cling to her skin, her heart racing as she turned back to him. So let me help you. Let's face this together. In that moment, under a rueful sky, Alaric stepped closer until their bodies nearly touched, the proximity seeping warmth into her chilled bones. I don't want to let you down again, he murmured. You won't, she assured, her voice dropping to a soft whisper that danced between them. The rain intensified, a symphony of nature crashing around them, yet all she felt was the steady thrum of his heart, so close to hers. We'll face it together. I won't let you push me away. He took a breath, the warmth of his hand brushing against her cheek, grounding her amidst chaos. You really think love can conquer all, huh? Why not? Amara smiled, the tension lifting as the rain cascaded around them like laughter, each drop a reminder of life's renewal. Someone has to believe it. As laughter slipped through the clouds, Alaric leaned in, his lips just inches away from hers, softening the air between them. Okay, but you can't blame me if love brings a thunderstorm with it. She chuckled, her eyes sparkling, a storm brewing, but beneath it, the sunlight fought through like their love. Bring it on. And in the breath suspended between them, the world paused as the warmth of hope ignited in their hearts. Scene 71. Navigating New Alliances. Amara leaned against the cool granite wall of the vineyard, her gaze sweeping the rows of twisted vines that wove like intricate lace across the landscape. The early autumn sun bathed the vineyard in a golden hug, but the warmth did little to ease the chill of uncertainty coiling in her stomach. A gust of wind rattled the leaves, mirroring the turmoil inside her. She turned away from the view and exhaled sharply, the tension of the day weighing heavily on her. Alaric approached from the gravel path, his silhouette framed by the vibrant sunset. His dark eyes, infused with a mixture of stoic focus and simmering intensity, locked onto hers. Our allies are waiting, he said, his voice smooth yet edged with urgency. We can't let this go on much longer. Amara nodded, pushing aside her swirling thoughts. Right, we need to act fast. I can't keep looking over my shoulder. She rubbed her arms, the cool breeze setting her skin alight. Alaric stepped closer, his presence soothing yet charged with unspoken power. You won't have to. Trust me. He paused, studying her face with an intensity that made her breath hitch. I'll protect what's yours. Be careful with promises, Alaric, Amara replied, a slight smirk playing on her lips despite the seriousness of their situation. I've never been good at following through on my own. You're not one to disappoint when the stakes are high. He tilted his head, the subtle shift igniting a spark of playful tension between them. Remember that. As they walked toward the meeting point, lines of tension buzzed through the air, tight as the vines that crested the horizon. Reaching a small clearing, they found their close allies gathered, Sarah, the spirited vineyard manager, and Davidson, a local lawyer with an unwavering moral compass. Look who finally decided to show up, Sarah teased, her warm brown skin glowing in the sun. Were you two too busy whispering sweet nothings to remember the rest of us? Or maybe we were plotting world domination, Alaric shot back, his eyes glinting with mischief. Davidson chuckled, brushing a hand through his hair. You'll have to take a number, Alaric. The world hasn't exactly been begging for you to save it, has it? Not yet, but they will, Alaric replied with a confident smirk, and the way he held himself suggested he wasn't joking. We're dealing with a syndicate here, not a bake sale. We need to strategize. Amara crossed her arms, her heartbeat loud in her ears, as she took her position at the forefront. We need a few moves ahead. As it stands, they've already made it clear they're willing to go after my entire operation. Davidson raised an eyebrow. How do we know they won't come for more than that? Last I checked, you've got more than just the vineyard at stake. Let's just say my family doesn't take defeat lying down, Amara responded, her gaze flickering to Alaric, gauging his reaction. But he remained stoic, a pillar she could lean against, yet somehow still wrapped in an enigma. Then we strike back, Alaric proposed, his tone deepening with resolve. We set traps, leverage our assets. They want a war, we can give them one they won't forget. With your brains and charm, I doubt they would see it coming, Sarah chimed in, her laughter brightening the seriousness of the moment. But remember, we can't do it without everyone on board. Or without a little finesse, Alaric added, mismatched laughter in his tone. I'm sure we can find a way to outsmart those blokes. Careful, you might sound like you're about to burst into song, Davidson quipped, his playful nature surfacing. Amara couldn't suppress the grin spreading across her face. What's the plan then? Should we serenade them with your charming voices? Only if you want them to flee in panic, Sarah quipped back. Keep the panic off stage, please, Alaric cut in, moving closer to Amara, his voice low. We need unity and precision. He leaned in, the space between them charged with a flickering energy. And as for your family's name, it's time we reclaim it. Amara's heart raced at his words, a knot of fear twisting with fierce hope as he gazed into her eyes. Together? Always together. Alaric extended his hand toward her, solid and reassuring. She took it without hesitation. As the warmth of their fingers intertwined, something larger than just the weight of their tasks settled around them. A new alliance, electric and fragile. All right, everyone, let's get to work. Time to put our heads together, and maybe our voices, Amara said, her smile brightening as she caught Alaric's eye once more. She could feel the unbroken circle of support building, and with it, a wave of determination surged through her. Onward, then, Alaric nodded, eyes glimmering with unspoken promise as they turned their attention to the task ahead, ready to face whatever darkness lay in wait. Scene 72. Chasing the horizon. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm, amber glow over Amara Sorensen's vineyard. Rows upon rows of grapevines stretched into the distance, like hopeful fingers reaching for the horizon, their leaves dancing gently in the light breeze. The intoxicating scent of ripe grapes mingled with the earthy aroma of fresh soil, whispering promises of a bountiful harvest. It was a scene that pulsed with life and love, a stark contrast to the shadows that had lingered over her family. Amara stood at the edge of the vineyard, her fingers trailing along the soft, velvety leaves. This was her sanctuary, a place where dreams took root and flourished. At her side, Alaric Ughandu leaned against a gnarled trunk of an ancient oak, his tall frame silhouetted against the golden backdrop. He looked thoughtful, his dark eyes scanning the rows of vines, but the tension in his shoulders betrayed the weight of his thoughts. This place, it's beautiful, he said, breaking their comfortable silence. His voice was low, almost a whisper, as if speaking louder would shatter the serenity that enveloped them. Amara turned to him, her heart racing at the sincerity in his tone. It is, and it can be even more. Imagine wine tastings, evenings under the stars, laughter spilling out from the farmhouse. She dared to dream more vividly, aware of the vision they had been building together. I want this to be a place where people can come together, where they can forget their worries, even if just for a moment. Alaric looked at her then, really looked at her. A flicker of vulnerability crossed his face, and the guarded shield he often wore slipped, revealing the man behind the intensity. You deserve that, Amara. You deserve to build something beautiful after everything that's happened. She saw the unspoken weight behind his words, the shared understanding of loss and pain. For a moment, the air between them crackled with emotions unvoiced. The past loomed like a specter in the background, yet here, now, they could create a new narrative. And you, she asked softly, what do you want? The question hung in the air, threading its way through their shared history and present tension. I want to be somewhere I can stop running, he admitted, his gaze steady on hers. Somewhere I can breathe without looking over my shoulder. His honesty disarmed her. You don't have to do it alone, you know. A smirk tugged at the corner of his mouth. That's rich coming from the queen of manipulation. His words were teasing, yet there was an undertone of sincerity that made her heart leap. She rolled her eyes dramatically, smiling despite herself. All right, Mr. Tall, dark, and dangerous. I'll be your partner in crime, but keep in mind, I plan to dominate the vineyard scene. A laugh escaped his lips, a genuine sound that was rare to hear. Great, I'll be the brooding love interest who mysteriously saves the day. Amara leaned against the oak tree, her heart swelling at the prospect of their partnership. Brooding? Please?